Welcome to Season 7 of the Retail Tea Break podcast. My name is Melissa Moore, the Retail Advisor and Rethink Retail Top Retail Expert for 2024. Each week, I'll be joined by industry experts, retailers and brands to dispel the myths, share knowledge, and give you an insight into the retail industry. Listen back to previous episodes on your favourite podcast platform or, of course, on YouTube. And while you're there, please do subscribe to the podcast so that you get to listen first every single week. So in the meantime, grab that cup of tea, sit back and listen in to Season 7 of the Retail Tea Break podcast. So today I'm joined by a retailer who's on a mission to bring joy to customers in the community. This retailer has won numerous awards and accolades, as well as a loyal customer base along the way. She's passionate about independent retail and its place in the community and in creating vibrant town centres. Her store, Butterslip, is remarkable for its colourful displays inside and out and for the joy which embraces its customers, a theme that runs through its both physical and online presence. Anne Barber, founder of Butterslip, welcome to the Retail Tea Break podcast.
Yay, thanks so much, Melissa. It's fabulous to be here. And thank you for that gorgeous intro.
Oh, you're very welcome. Delighted to get you on. I think it's such an important time of year, as it is all year, really, to be talking about the independence and the strong work you do, because as you say, you really do hold the high street, our main streets, our towns and our cities up and down the country. It's really special to have independent retailers and they're so strong in the community. But we'll get into all of that. But to kick us off, in the age-old tradition of the Retail Tea Break podcast, in the time that it takes to boil a kettle, which I am told is about 2 minutes, tell us a bit about you and the business.
Okay, so you mentioned Butterslip. We'll get back to that. But before that, I did actually grow up in retail in Fermoy, County Cork, where my parents had a jewellery shop. So I'm 5 generations in there. So I do actually have it in the blood on both sides. Got it well. So I used to love working after school, and I always had a job, obviously, through college or whatever. So it was always a good fallback. And when I think back, what I always loved doing was pulling everything out and doing window displays. So that was my forte, and merchandising and pulling apart stockrooms. So yeah, so I had a good grounding there, and my dad was phenomenal. And my mum actually really looked after the creative side of things. So they were a great team. And then I went to college, did various things, various different jobs, all of which sort of play in. You realize afterwards, I worked in marketing, I worked in recruitment, I also worked in retail and event management for winding up in Kilkenny and seeing a little for rent sign. And that's where it all started. But really, I suppose I had just bought my first house and I was looking for nice, colourful things. My aesthetic would be quite colourful. And at the time, Ireland was in a very beige place, I think. So I wasn't seeing, it's a classic story. You don't see what you want. So I think, right, I'll do this myself. So I had been like storing up little ideas and then I saw the for rent sign and that's how it all started.
My goodness, amazing. But I suppose growing up in retail as you did, you must have been surrounded by customers. Were you intrigued at that stage as to what was going on?
I'm not sure, but I do think, I suppose, that it comes more naturally. It's
Mm.
just part and parcel. You grow up chatting to customers, being behind the counter. Mum, dad would always introduce you to people. So I suppose you have that ease of manner, maybe that you learn that from an early age of being on a shop floor. And I always think there's a certain way of moving on a shop floor. It's like the theatre, the way you place yourself. And I suppose you learn that, you will learn to imbibe that early. And even, I suppose, being in a family business, whatever I did, I always was pretty sure that I would end up working for myself. And probably it's coming from that background. It was natural to me that I would one day work for myself. So yeah, didn't lick it off the ground.
That's so interesting though that you always knew that you'd move into that and it does genuinely sound like a place where you belong, I think, at this stage. And you look, and I know you very well at this stage, you're an incredibly positive person, but actually what's interesting and then hearing your backstory there is you bring that positivity and light to Butterslip, to the store. And I then just see that kind of spread through everything you do. Is that idea of positivity in retail important to you?
Oh, it's immensely important. Yeah, absolutely. So say I am, yes, a very positive person. That's just the way I am. And so it's natural that that would seep into the business. And over time, as I think about it more conscientiously, it's actually become the DNA of the business and it's the starting point for everything we do. So I probably wasn't aware of that in day one. You know, on day one, you're obsessed with your product and getting that right. And that's super important, obviously. But after a while, you realize that that's not even half the battle. It's all the other things that surround that that are so important. So for me, There's positivity, which is my natural disposition. And I suppose the manifestation of that is joy. And that's what I want to bring to the experience, to make it a really happy, joyous, uplifting place for people to come. And that's what differentiates a room full of product from a beautiful shop that you want to come into time and again to get that little uplift, to get that little piece of joy. So that positivity piece is incredibly important. And I suppose, as I said, over time, that's become our starting point for everything, and we can break that down into, into everything we do. So how things look, how they feel, how customers are treated, how the experience store, how it sounds, how it smells, all that has to be infused with that so that people are getting that uplift that you want them to get.
I love that, but actually, it makes so much sense. And it's really interesting that you started to list the kind of senses there because, look, anyone that knows Kilkenny City, you'd know the shop, you'd see it a mile away. It's so incredibly bright and colourful. The outside of the store just draws you in because there's so much going on, and your windows are always bang on pine and again full of color and delight. Feel like I'm really selling the shop here. I haven't
Thank
been
you. You're
paid
doing a
to do
great
this
job.
at all, but I do adore the shop in that respect. But that idea of embracing the shopper senses seems to follow through then. So it isn't just about the window display or the color for you, but you draw people in all those different ways.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important because, again, if you go back to for me, it's so important that customers experience the shop in a particular way, and that's in a really happy, uplifting way. And that's what makes them want to pop in at lunch break, spend a little bit of time here and there. And what makes you stand out from everybody else or stand out for an online experience, for example, because this is a thing that you cannot get online, is this personal, uplifting experience. And so it has to be, like I said, infused into everything. If you go back to my childhood doing the displays, that came very natural to me. And fortunate in that we have a fabulous premises with huge windows that lend themselves to these big, fabulous displays. And listen, it's an investment, but it's an investment that I think is really worthwhile. So we spend a lot of time and money and thought and creativity on the windows and on the outside of the shop. But I would file that under marketing and PR. In my head, that's where that spend
That's
goes.
interesting because,
Yeah.
again, massive super brands, the big international retailers, they do the same. But I then think
Yeah.
that gets lost as almost a chore for other retailers. I
think
have to
so.
change the mannequin, I have to stick a Christmas window in at this time of year. But I think you make a really valid point there that actually, no, this is pulling people in, this is PR.
This is so much pure. And it's incredible to me because like the shop may close at 6 o'clock, but as far as I'm concerned, but life doesn't close at 6 o'clock. People are
Mm.
walking on the street, they're on their way to and from work, to and from the restaurant, going for a drink. These are all opportunities. So the windows are lit up, they're time on a timer until 2 a.m. Again, that spend pays for itself a million times over because you have people walking past your window and looking at your lovely displays. So yeah, that's a really important part of it. So, and I think, like, to be fair, as retailers, we do tend to think about that very much at the start. You might be obsessed with that, but then it can slip along the way. So it's keeping on your game the whole time with your displays, with your window, and following through into the shop, obviously, and on your online and everything. But then there's the other parts of that as well, like you mentioned, the other senses, because if you want people to have a great experience in your store, how do you feel that? It's through your senses. So it should look good, it should smell good, it should sound good. We have, as a gift store, as a lifestyle store, we obviously have a lot of home fragrances. So it actually smells gorgeous when you come in and people remark upon that. It's amazing how often people will remark on that and their shoulders just kind of relax and they go, oh my God, it smells so lovely. And you automatically are in a lovely little relaxed, happy zone just because you've had that lovely fragrance. And we haven't had to do that, but it is something I'd be very aware of. Like, the opposite of that is somebody heating their curry in the microwave in the back of the shop. It's just not it's not a good.
It's really interesting. You've said that, and I've almost noticed my facial expressions going
Yeah.
from joyous and
Oh,
relaxed to ick, that's horrible.
yeah.
But that's what the
It does
customer
happen.
does, and we forget
You don't
this.
want to walk into that, and I know I'm starving, but you're going to have to find a way around that. We're going around with little perfume sprays or whatever. So it's noticing and being aware of all those things that your customer are going to be aware of. Sound is a really important one for me, and I think we've discussed this before. But like, and I think I read somewhere it's true that like sound is one of the shortcuts to the emotions. If you think of how evocative a piece of music can be, and smell as well, think about how evocative a perfume, a certain scent can be, and how important that is. But with sound, it really triggers different emotions. So, and some people are more sensitive to not than others in terms of volume or the sound. So, like, I can't, I hate walking into a place where the sound is off or it's off brand even, it's the wrong sound for that thing. So for me, it's really important to create that soundscape as well. And I know what the vibe in my shop is and what I want it to be. And there's no excuse. Back in the day, we had to do little CD compilations and you're gone demented listening to the same thing all the time. But you have such tools now. You've got Spotify, you can curate that. And it's different on a Wednesday morning to it is on a Saturday afternoon. And it's about keeping that buzz going the whole time. And again, like the curry in the microwave story, the opposite of that is an experience I had a while ago where I was in a beautiful boutique, not in Kilkenny, and it was gorgeous clothes, lovely merchandising. The sales assistant was fabulous. But on a shelf in front of me was this tiny little transistor radio blaring at me. And so if I was standing at this shelf, the music was blaring at me. And if I was on the other side of the shop, there was just this tinny little annoying noise. And I pick up a dress that's like €300 and somebody's reading out death notices on the radio. And these things just don't stack up, So I think, I want to walk into that world, pick up that dress and imagine myself in the dress and where I might go. And it's engaging all the senses in my imagination. But like I was really brought down to earth very badly by the traffic notices and the death notices and, the GA results from the weekend. So these are what your customer are feeling all the time. And I think we want to create that little magic bubble. And that's what people deserve because they're coming in and they're spending whatever expendable income they have, in their lives, which is different for everybody. But this could be the thing that really tips their day, this little treat or this gift they have to get for themselves or somebody else. And shouldn't that be as lovely and joyous, as uplifting as it can be? So it's actually quite easy to do, but you just have to be aware of every single little step along the way and the importance of each of those steps. So then that person can go out happy and is more likely to come back again and to give that gift to their friends and family, and just it all continues on from there.
Completely agree. And I don't think enough emphasis is put on these other senses because again the visual really used to. I think the smell people are starting to cotton on to. We know from grocery retail, we know the bigger retailers, they tend to pump stuff in. Sound.
Yeah.
Sound is
Shortcuts the emotion.
unbelievably important. And I have
Unbelievable.
to say, I adore local radio. They're very good to all of
Same.
us.
Lovely
There
at
is
breakfast time.
absolutely a time and a place, but I think for
Yeah.
certain stores, like high-end boutiques like that, it might not be the right place or
Gotta
time
get it
for
right.
all aspects of the day.
Yeah. Like hospitality sometimes does it really well, sometimes miss it as well. And I think there's a lot of parallels between hospitality and retail that we should probably draw on more. Like we want to create that welcome, and I suppose hospitality, they think about that a lot more, but I think it's something that we as retailers need to think about a lot more, about all the aspects that go into that welcome and that first engagement of the senses. And sound is such an important part of that. Like a good playlist in a nice cafe, and you're just delighted
And
with
as you said, it's
life.
so easy to do nowadays. We've so much choice as opposed to back in the day. And especially, I'm so mindful at this time of year where you'd hear the same maybe 10 tracks
We're
on
all
repeat in the run up to
traumatized by those
Christmas.
Christmas CDs. Yeah.
100%. But I love this. So we're starting to now build this customer journey, the experience. They've come in from outside with you because you've drawn them in. You're really curating an experience because, again, you're being very thoughtful and mindful about every little aspect of this journey. But
Yeah.
did you realize, and again, maybe this comes from your background in retail from such a young age, that actually all these little steps are starting to curate this perfect journey, which is therefore leading, as you've just mentioned, to not only the customer coming in, but probably coming back to you. So now we've hit on the long-term value of the customer. And I mean, you've been in business a long time now with Butterslip. Are you starting to see that stack up?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you're right. It's not something you think of on day one or day two because you've got so many other things to think about. But a couple of years later, or a while later, you're seeing the same faces, and that's so rewarding. And now we're almost 20 years in, and what is equally frightening and fantastic is that I have second, third generation. So I have people coming in now, and it's only started happening in the last few years, who say, "Oh, I used to love coming in when I was a child," and I want to die, but I'm also thrilled, you know. But isn't that wonderful that they come in when they were children and they really want to come back? And or I had like we've had quite a few cases where you have people who's come in with their child and they come in to buy their wedding jewelry. And that for me is so special, that somebody who's come in and said, "I want to buy my wedding jewelry here," because that's such a big emotional purchase. And because I think it is because of that constant engagement of the senses, that constant engagement we've had, that we've been a happy, safe place for people for so long, that it's obviously a warm feeling. And then they want to come and for us to be part of their wedding journey. So that customer journey is just incredible. And then those people are now having families and their own children. So we're now serving their kids because, as you know, we do kids stuff, we do jewelry. It's a very spread out gift lifestyle store that accommodates all those things. And so it's just so special to see that coming all the way through. And I suppose a big part of that as well was, COVID interrupted that or threatened to interrupt that, and you had to find your ways like everybody else to work around that. But we did, and it's been fabulous. So, like a lot of people's other businesses during COVID, we pivoted. We were already online, but obviously online became very important. And it was actually strangely one of those things that obviously I'm not going to say COVID was a positive, but if you take the positives from it, it was a time where you could actually really build customer engagement because people were so appreciative and there was a lot of direct messaging and they were dying or really yearning for that contact. So being able to do things in that time and deliver parcels and deliver things to people was just so special. Like at one stage I was going around on my bike delivering parcels on Mother's Day because, when we weren't allowed to click and collect anymore, I didn't want to have to charge people who only lived up the road. It made no sense. So I was loading up the car every night with parcels and going around delivering them. And that kind of experience and those interactions have really, really stuck with people and stuck with me as well, because people remember things like that relationship was maintained and it was really, really special.
It's the ideal way to build that customer base, isn't it? You've gone out of your way for them. It's almost like this is how we teach it. It's
Yeah, go
lovely
around
to
to the
hear.
bicycle.
There is that as well, but it's really lovely to hear that actually those customers have remained loyal. But I think actually, to your point there about the bicycle, it just proves that as an independent retail owner, you are juggling so much. Yeah, the bike story might be a little extreme, but obviously time was needed back then during those COVID months. But you do so much. We've talked about, I suppose, the aesthetic of the store. We've talked about your range there. There's all of that to consider, and it's on your shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But I suppose that's the juggle, isn't it? With any small business owner will tell you that there's always a juggle. And I suppose the particular one in retail, because we are customer facing. And so you want to have that customer facing time as much as possible. We're open 7 days and I want to have a lot of time on the shop floor chatting to customers and spending time with my amazing team because that's where the fun is and that's where the crack is and that's really important. But you also have to do all the stuff like the admin and the finance and the website maintenance and the social media, etc. And that all takes time. And I would add a third element, really important element, which is time away from all that, just being on the bicycle or walking the dog. Because if if I'm not rested and refreshed, then I can't bring that creativity or the joy to the business. And it might sound like a luxury, and I know for a lot of small business owners it would seem to be, but I've always tried to build that in from day one because I know I can't turn up and give the experience that I want to give unless I'm rested. Now we're going into Christmas period and there will be a lot less of that and the work-life balance will go askew, but it will come around again. And we know that, so it's fine. But yeah, that is, but at the same time, I suppose for me, it's in my, I enjoy it. It's almost like I said, it's that hospitality piece. I would find it a lot harder to do the same thing 9 to 5 every day. So I'm quite happily doing that juggle and it's different every day and it's different every week. So you just have to learn to roll with it as much as possible, I suppose. And I don't do it alone. I have a phenomenal team. I really, really do. They're just amazing. Like I've always been blessed with amazing staff, but I have to say at the moment, we have the dream team and I have so much support and we're all on the same page. We understand the mission. We're all here to do the same thing, to deliver that customer experience and make it as beautiful as possible. So, I wouldn't do it without them. It's fantastic.
It's so refreshing, Anne, to hear you say that you aren't there
I
24/7,
know.
and I'm absolutely not knocking anyone that's listening that does. But I think the mentality, again, it goes back to this positivity that unless your own cup is full, there is no way that you're going to
No.
give the customer the most amazing experience because
Yeah.
you've drained yourself, and we know how hard this time of year is. But actually, for the rest of the year, if you can get away, step away. But
Try and
with that, and you've mentioned your team, with that comes this trust and delegation and nurturing of the team to step up and deliver. And I think you really seem to have that in Butterslip.
I think we do. I think we do. And it's so rewarding for me and I hope for them as well. Like I keep going back to that piece of the experience we want to deliver to the customer, but that can't be delivered by disgruntled, unhappy people. That just it's not going to happen. So all that has to start with us, with the people, with the team, and we have a lovely little unit. And there's a lot of things that go into that, but it's creating a kind, supportive environment. It's the rewards, financial and otherwise, because that comes in all kinds of different ways. But I think you mentioned autonomy there and things, and it's something you learn over time, because I think naturally, maybe as entrepreneurs or self-employed people were inclined to be all over things. And I certainly was in my first couple of years, until I magically discovered that other people are really good at things, and they're really good at things that I'm not that good at. And there's such a joy and a freedom in that, in discovering it and admitting it and be able to let go. So we have a small team. There's 6 of us over a range of ages. So that in itself is wonderful, because my customers range in ages. So I have 18-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 35-year-olds on the staff, which is phenomenal. And so you're getting all that little range of inputs.
They're going to love that you've mentioned their ages on this, by the way. Well done.
It's a range, is what I'm saying. But so there's that. But they also, each of those has their own ideas and their own talents and their own outlets, and to be able to use those is great for me, but I think it's also brilliant for them, because nobody wants to turn up and do the same or work off the same script. So for example, when we have somebody new starting, for training in somebody, obviously I have a framework and we have a way of doing things, and I mentioned the DNA, and it all goes back to that. But I also want to leave room for that person's personality, because I don't want a pile of scripted people in the shop. So it's like, here's how I would do it, and here's the sort of the framework, but you can put your own slant on that, So I think I
Then
need
they
to.
own it though, don't they? There's ownership there
They step
instantly when
up
they
and
join the
own
team.
it. Absolutely. And we all have different relationships with different customers as well. I know there's people who come in and they'll only want to talk to me, and there's people who only want to come in and talk to somebody else. And you build those relationships. But that's the force of the individual personality, which is so important. And that's where you get that authenticity as well, that a customer will feel, like I said, you're not talking to somebody who's scripted. That's so important. And then, I have some of the girls who are very creative, and so they're great at helping with displays, or maybe doing different little creative things in the shop, or feeding me ideas as well. And then others who are like OCD and love tidying stuff, which is a blessing, let them at it. And one girl who's amazing at planning and rotas, and my head doesn't do that at all. I cannot do staff rotas. So like being able to, and so all those things happen. It gives them more responsibility and autonomy, and I think gives them a greater sense of pride in their work, and it frees me up to do other things. So it's a win all around, I have to say. And I suppose another really important thing I've learned for a couple of years. So we share all our figures in the shop, so everybody has access
Brilliant.
to the reporting. And every 3 months, I'll give the 3 months for the 3 months of last year, the corresponding 3 months of last year. And it's amazing to see the effect of that. So we all know what we did in August, September last year. And it's phenomenal, because you're coming to the end of the month and they're all like, come on, we can do it, or we can beat it. There's been instances where the girls have, like, we're coming on the last day and they've bought themselves a pair of rings just so they could smash last year's target. It's phenomenal. So the buy-in is so important. You're all working on the same page, there's no secrets there. I just think it's amazing to me how powerful that has been.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've seen the value of that over the years, certainly when I've run stores. But I'm almost shocked at how many retailers, and I'm talking about the international and the tiny, tiny small retailers, much, much smaller than you are, that fear sharing figures,
Yeah.
fear people the road, down the road knowing, fear the competition getting hold of it. And I think it's really sad, because the way you've described that empowerment there is everything. If we can empower our teams, not only in the roles that they play and the value that they add both to the business but also to the customers, but also there's no harm in this day and age of sharing figures, because it does get people behind you, especially in the busy months like this. It keeps people going, because there is a bar, there's a goal, and it's
Yeah.
exciting.
It's very exciting. It's the exciting element of it. And sometimes we do, like, we'll have our Christmas sandwich competition or whatever, we'll have a reward wrapped up in that, but you don't even have to, like, honestly, it's self-fulfilling. People just love doing it for the buzz of it. It's a sense of achievement. And retail is a funny one, because it could be same, or you can make it diverse and interesting. And I think that's what we need in our life. Who doesn't want a little, just
Definitely.
spice
And you
up a
know
little
what?
bit?
It comes back to you have this happy, fulfilled, valued team, and surprise, surprise, your customers feel the same way, because I do think the two come hand in hand, and you can see it in your story and in your customers. But I hate to bring us down, because I'm feeling joyous and very positive in this conversation. But look, Black Friday tomorrow, I kind of feel like there should be a clap of thunder above my head as I say that. Technically, to be honest, like the Black Friday deals, the adverts, the commotion's been going on for what feels like months already. It's certainly been going on since before Halloween. It's one constant slog of slashing prices at this time of year. But as an independent retailer, do you think, and I mean, you've seen this over the years as Black Friday's come from nowhere, it's built to be this incredible thing it is right now. Do you think your customers expect it from you, or are they happy enough that you're just doing your thing at this time of the year?
Yeah, it's something I've obviously grappled with over the years. And like anything, it's something I wanted to put my own slant on.
Mm.
So a couple of years ago, when it started getting bigger and bigger, I was like, what are we going to do with this? It doesn't sit naturally with me. Even the name, I don't love it. We're very
No, I
colorful.
agree.
It
Absolutely.
doesn't work
It's
for me. Um,
negative.
so what we started doing a couple of years ago was doing a charity event on Black Friday. And we worked with a number of different charities, but for the last number of years, we've worked with a charity called Amber Women's Refuge at Kilkenny. So we call it Amber Friday. And
Lovely.
on that Friday, we will donate 20% of our sales to Amber Women's Refuge. And like that, the buy-in, it's been phenomenal for us. I can tell you, it's just so lovely. So we have a positive response. If somebody says, are you doing Black Friday? Have you got any offers? I said, well, actually, this is what we're doing. We're donating 20% of our sales to Amber Women's Refuge. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's fabulous. I'll definitely be in. Like, with very few exceptions, that has been the response. And we've done this for, I don't know, 5, 6 years now. And it gets bigger every year and it's fantastic. So it's a win for us because I don't want to do the same. It doesn't sit right with me. I will decide if and when I'm going to do offers or deals, and I just don't want to follow into this. And it's just not a nice atmosphere around the whole thing, I find. So, like with anything we do, I want to turn it into a positive. So I think we've turned that around, and now Amber Friday is actually a really positive event for us, for the charity we're supporting, for our customers, for everybody, because it actually makes it into quite a joyous occasion. So with any of these things, I'll always try and look and see how we can turn this into a positive or something that works for us or something that is, yeah, something that is better than it could be.
I think that's an incredible thing to do because, again, it feels, and certainly I think Black Friday seemed to come to the front really during those COVID years because we were, a lot of us
Yeah,
at home, and those online deals were everywhere. And it
yeah,
just seemed to suck the life out of retail and even big retail here. And again, a lot of them are very involved, but they have the margins to play with. Whereas, of course, a lot of the
yeah.
smaller retailers, especially the independents, they don't have it, but they felt they had to get swept up. So
They
I
have
love
that,
the fact
yeah.
that you're doing something positive, which again, to bring us right back to the beginning of this conversation, really feeds into your positivity, the values you have for both the brand and yourself. But also, I think,
The
again,
community, I'd say, because as you mentioned with
that's it.
independent retailers, I'm sorry to, but you sit in the community and you're part of the community. And we want the community to support us, but it's a two-way street. It's definitely, and so that plays into that very importantly. We obviously support different charities, schools, etc., throughout the year, and that's a really important part of what we do. But this is like one of our showpiece events, and that's what it's become in the calendar, which is brilliant.
I love that. And again, it shows why our customers are so loyal because you're loyal to them in that respect, as you say. This idea of community and local retailing, and living to your values and minding your people, I think really just wraps itself together. But look, we could definitely talk on, and I've no doubt you'll be back on soon enough because final question, and I kind of know where this is going because next year is so special for you. What's coming up over the next few months? Once we've Christmas out the way now, over the next few weeks, what's next?
We're going to survive Christmas. It's going to be amazing. And 2025 is really special because it will be our 20th anniversary. So, which is really, really hard to believe that that little for rent sign on a dark night, one night when I was walking the dog, has turned into this. So, there'll definitely be a party. You're invited. I don't know what else we're
You
going to
heard
do.
it here first.
But it is a really special year. It's a really special year. Like, it takes time to mature as a business, and all, there's many bumps and rides and pivots and different things along the way, but we've got to here, and it will continue to change and evolve. But I think 20 is something I'm really proud of and really want to celebrate, and a few other ideas up my sleeve. So we'll see where that goes.
How exciting. But again, 20 years very much embedded in the community, as we've said all along, very much part of the fabric of Kilkenny City as well. So my little call to action, if you haven't been to the store, if you certainly haven't been to Kilkenny City, why not? It's a glorious time of year, I think, to head down there. And you can't miss the store, can you really?
No, you can see it from outer space. It's very colorful. And the Christmas decorations are going up, so it's going to be even brighter. We've got a lovely Yule Festa starting in Kilkenny now, the Christmas festival. So the city is actually looking stunning, and it is a really good hub for independent retail. It's actually stunning. Yeah, so do come. If you
Absolutely.
can't
Oh,
come, you can go visit the website, butterslip.com, or check out our Instagram page, which is equally colourful.
plug, plug, plug.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
all for it at this time of the year. Absolutely. And it's definitely worth if you can't, tomorrow is Black Friday, as Anne said. So you might treat yourself to something full price on the website. And we know then some of that money is going to
100%.
such a special cause. So well worth a little look. And obviously, as always, if you need the details for the store, the location, or the website, it'll be in the show notes. Because if you've enjoyed today's podcast episode, I really urge you, especially with the week that's in it, please do share it. I think if you know a retailer, if you are one, there's such positivity in the message from today. I think it'll make everyone's heart skip a little bit warmer and brighter over the next few days because it does start to get tough at this time of year. But look, remember you can also listen back to past Retail Tea Break episodes on your favorite podcast platform or of course over on YouTube. As I said, do please connect with myself and Anne either on LinkedIn. I'll share all the details for Butterslip in the show notes. So, Anne, best of luck now with the next few weeks as we
Thank you so
rattle towards
much.
Christmas. All your gifting needs there in Butterslip. I'm going to keep plugging away. But
You do
listen,
a great job.
thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute joy.
Oh, thank you so much, Miss. It was lovely to chat to you.